Given one trig value and the quadrant, or two trig values, find the value of all 6 trig functions. That's what this video is about. Alright, looking at problem number 10. We're given the sine and the quadrant. So let's go ahead and draw ourselves a sketch. Okay, so they're telling us quadrant 2. So let me fix my sketch actually. Alright, so focusing on quadrant 2 that they gave us. So here's an angle with terminal side in quadrant 2. Now I'm going to build a triangle out of this by forming the reference angle. Okay, now sine is opposite leg over the hypotenuse. So looking at this reference angle right here, the opposite leg would be 3, and the hypotenuse, of course, is here, and that's going to be 5. Now, we need to be aware of these signs, meaning positive and negative, of each of these numbers in order to get the true value of the angle in standard position, which really goes all the way like this. But all we have to do is think about the fact that this 3 is up 3, so it's positive. Now the hypotenuse, we will always treat that as a positive number. We need to find the missing side. So we're going to use the Pythagorean theorem. I'm going to call this x. So x squared plus 3 squared is going to equal 5 squared. So that's x squared plus 9 is equal to 25. Subtract the 9. X squared is equal to 16. Take the square root. X is equal to 4. Okay? Now be careful. This 4 is to the left. So we need to treat this as a negative 4 if we want to be able to get the actual values from the standard position angle, which is really over here. But if we treat this as a negative 4, it's going to give us the right answers. It's a shortcut. Alright, so let's get to it. Now we should be able to find all of the trig values using these 3 numbers. So if I want to do the sine of theta, I can look at the reference angle here to do it. Opposite over hypotenuse, well, it's what they gave us, let's be honest, so 3/5. But if I want the cosine, that's adjacent over hypotenuse, so that's going to be negative 4 over 5. If I want the tangent, that's opposite over adjacent, so that's 3 over negative 4. Now the reciprocal ones. The reciprocal of sine is cosecant, so that'll be 5 over 3. The reciprocal of cosine is secant, so that's going to be negative 5 over 4. And the reciprocal of tangent is cotangent, so that's going to be negative 4 over 3. Let's take a look at number 11. Well, this time they gave us 2 trig values, but actually they didn't give us 2 trig values. They gave us 1 trig value and, you know, the sign of a trig value, meaning positive, negative. So let's use this information to figure out what quadrant we're talking about. So just real quick. Okay, we understand that tangent is positive here and here, and tangent is negative here and here. So based on this, the fact that the tangent is negative, we know that we're either talking about the second quadrant, or we are talking about the 4th quadrant. Okay, now on the other hand, we know that the sine function is like a y value on the unit circle. So by giving us that the sine value is less than 0, or the sign is negative, they're saying that y values, we need negative y values. And we know that y values are negative below the x-axis. So the y values are negative down here. Okay. So obviously the zone that satisfies both criteria is this green double shaded zone known as the fourth quadrant. Okay, so that's sort of step one, is to analyze and figure out what quadrant you're in. Now that we know that we're in the fourth quadrant, we can do the number 11 the same way we did number 10. And in fact, you should stop the video and finish this problem by yourself, and then just check back and see how you did. So I'm drawing this picture to focus on the fourth quadrant. Okay, so here I am in the fourth quadrant. I'm going to make a triangle out of it, thinking about this reference angle right here. Now, I know that tangent is opposite over adjacent. Okay, so from the perspective of the reference angle here, then this is opposite and this is adjacent. So I know I need a 15 over here being all opposite, and I know I need the 8 right here being adjacent. So to make this tangent negative, we know one of these has to be negative, but we don't have to guess because the quadrant tells us this is 8 to the right, so that's positive, but this is 15 down. So the 15 is the one that has to be negative. Alright? So, with that in mind, we can go ahead and write all the trig. Oh, no, wait. We need the hypotenuse first. So, this is the point where we stop and do the Pythagorean theorem. Always doing that. So, I'm going to call this C. So, C squared is going to equal 8 squared plus 15 squared. So C squared is going to equal 64 plus 225. So C squared is going to equal 289, and then I need to take the square root of both sides. So that turns out to be 17. Alright, now that I have all three, and wait, something happened. This is supposed to be negative. It disappeared on me. The hypotenuse is always positive. So now I should be able to write all my 6 values. So here I go. Sine theta. I can use this reference angle to do it as long as I use this negative 15. Even though the true angle theta goes all the way around like this, the reference angle will work using the shortcut of using the negative sign on the 15. So the sine is going to be opposite over hypotenuse, so that's going to be negative 15 over 17. Cosine, adjacent over hypotenuse, so positive 8 over 17. And tangent, opposite over adjacent, so negative 15 over 8. Alright, which we already had. Now we'll do the reciprocal one. So the reciprocal of sine is cosecant. So that's going to be 17 over negative 15. The reciprocal of cosine is secant. So that's going to be 17 over 8. And the reciprocal of tangent is cotangent. So that's going to be 8 over negative 15. Alright, let's do one more of these. This time they're giving us 2 trig values. And again, our first job is to figure out in which quadrant we lie. So let's figure it out. Let's investigate. Remember, the sine function is like a y value. So by telling us that the sine function is equal to 0, actually this is interesting because the sine function is equal to 0, that means it's going to be right on either the x-axis or the y-axis. So let's look at it. At each of these positions, at this point right here, this is the point 1 comma 0. Alright, this is a unit circle, okay? This point right here is 0 comma 1. This position over here, alright, I guess I can't get any further over. I'll just put it right here. This point is negative 1 comma 0. And this is the point 0 comma negative 1. Now remember that the sine function is a y value on the unit circle. So that means I'm talking about if the sine is 0, see how the y value is 0 here? So this is one of the possible points. And see how this y value is also 0. So this is another point. Okay, so it's got to be one of these two. But we also need the one where the secant, we need the point where the secant is negative 1. So you got to remember what the secant is. The secant, is the reciprocal of the cosine function. Okay, so that means the reciprocal of the cosine function is somehow equal to negative 1. Well, guess what? The only way that's going to happen is if cosine itself is negative 1. You know, the reciprocal of negative 1 is negative 1. So indirectly, they're telling us that the cosine is negative 1. So look at the two possibilities we narrowed it down to. Remembering that cosine is an x value, we now know that the x value has to be negative 1. This x value is positive 1, so that's not it. So that just leaves, okay, that was a fail. That just leaves this point right here. So this is the point at which we will look when we write down all 6 trig values. So there's really only 4 because we got 2 of the values already given. But I'm just going to write them all down. So first of all, sine. The sine is just the y value, so sine is 0. Cosine. Cosine is the x value, that's negative 1. Tangent. Tangent is sine over cosine, so that's 0 divided by negative 1. 0 divided by anything is 0. So there's tangent. Now we need the reciprocal functions. So we're going to do the reciprocal of sine is cosecant. So for a cosecant would be like doing 1 over 0, but that's undefined. Sorry about my voice. I'm getting over an illness, so I apologize. So that one's undefined. The reciprocal of cosine is secant, and that's like doing 1 over negative 1. But I'm so sorry. Being sick is so gross, you guys. It's disgusting. Anyway, the reciprocal of cosine, reciprocal of negative 1 is still negative 1, like we said earlier. And then the reciprocal of tangent is cotangent. And we already talked about this. This is also going to be undefined because the reciprocal of 0 is like 1 over 0, and dividing by 0 is undefined. So that's it.